Go for it. Good evening and welcome to the October 12th, 2020 City Council meeting. Thank you for joining us in this remote meeting format we're using in response to Governor Brown's Stay Home, Save Lives order. This format enables City Council to meet, hear from the community, and take care of business while keeping its members, staff, and the public safe. Following our first couple of items tonight, there will be a public forum followed by 3 action items. There are a few housekeeping announcements, so thank you for your patience. First of all, anyone wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by following the access instructions listed for this meeting on the public webcast and meeting materials webpage. For those who join the meeting via computer, device, or phone, your microphone, webcam, and phone are automatically muted when you enter the meeting as an attendee. If you wish to participate during the public forum portion of the meeting and haven't already done so, please raise your virtual hand now to join the speaker's queue in one of 2 ways. For those viewing the meeting on a computer, laptop, or other device, click once on the blue hand icon. For those listening to the meeting on a phone, press *9. We will continue accepting raised hands until 7:35 p.m. The meeting moderator will unraise or disallow any requests to speak that are made after the deadline. When the public forum begins, our meeting moderator will announce 2 speakers at a time. When it is your turn, the moderator will announce your name and unmute your microphone. You will have 2 minutes to speak. Finally, I want to thank you all for your patience, flexibility, and good humor as we continue to work in this virtual meeting format. And as always, please feel free to contact any of us individually or together via email or voicemail if there is testimony you were not able to provide or wish to get to us in a different manner. And we will begin this meeting with a ceremonial moment I have a proclamation to deliver in recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day. And I will mention before I read this that city staff and I have worked with a local natives scholar who has dedicated her time to supporting, elevating urban Indigenous communities and working to educate leaders. So we appreciate her support in helping us craft this proclamation. Sitting on Kalapuya land, our city joins 15 states and more than 150 other cities and towns across the nation that recognize today, the 2nd Monday in October, as Indigenous Peoples Day. Since 1977, more and more governing bodies have opted to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. For the city of Eugene, instead of commemorating conquest, we recognize resilience. On this day, we celebrate the heritage of Indigenous peoples to show respect of their history and to enlighten the public toward a better understanding of modern Indigenous communities. The city values the many contributions made to our community through Indigenous peoples' knowledge, labor, technology, science, philosophy, arts, and deep cultural contributions that have substantially shaped the character of our city and state. Since time immemorial, the Kalapuya people have been the Indigenous stewards to this land, building dynamic communities, maintaining balance with wildlife, and enacting sustainable land practices. Following treaties between 1851 and 1855, Kalapuya people were dispossessed of their Indigenous homeland by the United States government and forcibly removed to the Coast Reservation of Western Oregon. The city of Eugene is built upon the traditional homelands of the Kalapuya peoples and acknowledges the inherent sovereignty of the 9 federally recognized tribal nations in the state of Oregon. Kalapuya descendants are citizens of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians of Oregon. they continue to make contributions in their communities here and across the lands. Our commemoration of Indigenous Peoples Day is one step on the path to replacing harmful historic untruths with truth about displacement, genocide and loss, resilience, and belonging. Indigenous Peoples Day pushes against erasure and urges Americans to rethink history and recognize Indigenous representation, equality, and justice. We are inspired by local and regional Indigenous people who continue to fight against the systemic racism and injustices inflicted by the United States government. We are committed to improving our city's actions that pursue a higher quality of life and well-being for our Indigenous communities. As mayor, I stand with city leadership for inclusivity and the recognition of past harm and offer our commitment to work towards change. We pledge better government-to-government relationships between the city and our local Indigenous leadership. We will build the foundation for that respectful and strengthened relationship by committing ourselves to a deeper understanding of the effects of our history through training and education on decolonization. Now, therefore, I, Lucy Vinnis, Mayor of Eugene, Oregon, proclaim support of the recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day on the second Monday in October and ask the residents of Eugene to utilize this day as an opportunity to reflect on the ongoing struggles of Indigenous peoples, to celebrate the thriving cultures and values of the Indigenous people of our region, and to stand in solidarity with Indigenous peoples elsewhere. Encourage other businesses, organizations, and public institutions to recognize Indigenous Peoples Day on the second Monday in October, and commit to continue efforts to promote the well-being and growth of Eugene's Indigenous community. And with that, we will begin our regular meeting. And our first item of business is committee reports and items of interest. And because we have a guest today, I'm going to turn this over immediately to the city manager to kick it off, and we'll then give an opportunity for a council to offer their updates. So, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Listening to that makes me feel like I need to take a deep breath. We're getting some sort of vibration. I'm not sure that's coming from. Maybe from yours, Mayor. There we go. So we do have a special guest today, but before we jump to that, I just want to reflect on your statement and the city's overarching goal of really the word resilience and building trust and authentic relationships has been front and center for us. And so it feels a little bit, I feel heavy about the events that I was communicating with you about over the weekend in relation to the mural that was unveiled last week or a week ago, which was an attempt to do exactly this, which was an attempt to look at the way we do work, with the way we do our processes, and allow those systems to open up to be more community generated and community led. And in some ways was such a success, and in other ways we made some errors in terms of just some of how we looked at the work, how much time we took to process it, how much dialogue we had, and the narrative that we could have done as part of it. So I just wanted to say prior to going into the public forum that I think we all feel really heavy about this, that something that was really intended to bring forward this incredible story and connection to history and legacy and allow those voices has ended up being overshadowed by a story that was not intended. So I'll be here after the public forum and able to talk more about that. I know you wanted to also connect it is really the importance of our watershed. And it was important to some of the council to hear about what the impacts of the Holiday Farm have been on our watershed. So I invited Frank to join us for just a few minutes to kind of just talk about what's happening and what EWEB's plans are. And then I'm here for the rest of the night after we hear from the forum if you want to talk more about the mural. with that, Frank, I know that was like not the lightest introduction, but I am really, really grateful you're here. I know that you and your teams have been working extraordinarily hard under really difficult conditions. And so I know it's a big ask to have you come here, and I thank you for that.
Well, thank you for the invitation, Sarah. I appreciate it. Mayor Venus, councilors, good evening. For the first time, eWeb actually went into multiple ICS situations. I know most of you know what ICS is. It's an incident command structure. And we had 4 going at the same time. One was in the electric division. One was in the water division, which I'm really here to talk about tonight. We had one in the communications area, which was in combination with the LRIG group, including City of Eugene, because most of the communications was taken out in the McKenzie Valley that first night. And then the 4th one was our generation facilities, because we have 3 different generation facilities up the McKenzie Valley. And so we were actually in 4 different versions of ICS all at the same time. The city manager asked me this evening to share some information about the impacts of the Holiday Farm fire on our eWeb water system. And I guess I'll start by acknowledging that very early on in the fire, right after Labor Day, we did see some increases in turbidity, the general cloudiness of the water, and saw an increase in organic matter in the river. Some of that was understandable because of ash in the air. There was a lot of debris in the river, and we had to make some significant adjustments to our treatment process. Now, in no way was water quality or water safety ever threatened through the entire time. But early on, there were some taste and odor issues in the water. And so we made some adjustments to the process. It's a little bit of a slow adjustment. You make a change, and then it's usually 2 or 3 days to work through the system. And so while it was still safe, we did have to make some adjustments early on to account for kind of a musty odor and taste in the water. We increased significantly the amount of testing that we've been doing. We've been testing for over 200 different substances over the last several weeks. You can actually see those published on our website. We show the results from both before the fire and also during the fire. And then for finished water, we're testing both the raw water and the finished water. For finished water, we show the EPA standards. And so you can see that early on, there were some higher organics really being mud, debris, silt. At no time did we see any dangerous levels of toxins. For example, things that would cause you heavy metals and that type of thing. Over the last couple of weeks, we've basically seen the source water go back to what we would expect this time of year. With rain events, we see a little bit of increase. That's not unusual. We've made adjustments as we've gone along. And so I really have to commend our water treatment facility and the staff there for a lot of the adjustments they made. We also added a real-time monitor. And so it's up near Walterville. And so if there are any significant changes, we get about a 4 to 6 hour advanced warning, and that monitors for things like heavy organics or heavy metals in the water. And so we can respond pretty quickly through our treatment process. I guess it does prove out when you make investments. Over the last 10 years or so, we've made over $30 million of investments in the treatment plant. And so added a number of processes like the addition of being able to add carbon, which would be similar to what you would see in a carbon filter in your home. And that's very much for taste and odor, for example. Probably one of our biggest issues to address is just beginning, and that's the impacts on the watershed. When you have 170,000 plus acres impact the watershed, that's going to be significant over time. We have made a lot of investments to preserve it over the last 20 years or so. but the cost to recover a watershed is typically many times higher than it is to preserve it. And so we know that there's some significant investments in replanting and soil stabilizations. Our priorities right now are to try to isolate and contain any toxic waste. And so we're working with the city and the county and EPA and DEQ and a number of others to, before heavy rains and heavy winter, we can stabilize the soils and potentially and hopefully try to contain as much of the potential toxic waste as possible before it were to leach or run into a tributary or the main stem of the Mackenzie. That's really that stabilization of soils, and especially where you have a home that was burned that might have a lot of plastics or asbestos or other kinds of contaminants. We're trying to work with other agencies, including the city of Eugene, on ways to contain that. So the board did pass a budget amendment last week to get a jump start. The fire recovery playbook talks about the important things to do before the first winter. A lot of that has to do with managing soils and runoff and slides and toxic waste in the most vulnerable areas within the floodplain and within areas that might leach into the river. And so those are our priorities right now, to try to get as much jump on those as we can before the winter hits. There'll be some planting that takes place. Sometimes you hear about ryegrass or others. That can work in some locations and not others, because it's also an invasive species in some areas. And so we're working with a lot of partners right now to try to take a priority around early stabilization before winter. We do expect over the next several years, this is going to be a pretty heavy investment, not just for EWEB. We're very interested in water quality, as you can imagine, but also just the environmental impact on the Mackenzie Valley, on the economy, on timber, on homes. There's a lot of rebuilding to do. And so this was a really tragic event. A lot of people were impacted, over 400 homes burned. And from a watershed perspective, our work is just beginning. And so we've got a lot of work to do. We've made a lot of investments. I think there's renewed interest in a second treatment plant after this kind of an awareness that that's important. We've had it in our budget for roughly the mid-2020s. And so I think that's still appropriate. Maybe even the board would be interested in accelerating that somewhat. So also looking at a second treatment plant on the Willamette for events like this. This was probably a really good example of how vulnerable having a single surface water source is. You know, we were able to treat it. We can treat a lot worse water. Actually, it does. The trade-off there is volume, and so the worse the incoming water, the less throughput you have for a treatment plant. And we were not in danger of actually looking at curtailments, although we did put out some notices to the public about being prepared. I think that was probably a good wake-up call. And at one point, the treatment plant was about 1,000 feet away from an evacuation zone. And so that would have caused us some concern. But overall, I think that the plant and the people handled and made adjustments quite well. I didn't know if the city manager wanted me to answer questions or just, you know, if there's a lot of links on our websites to different pieces of information, kind of what's ahead, both from a watershed perspective and a testing perspective. And we have several weeks of very detailed testing results of different kinds of substances. So if people want to know what's in the water, both the raw water and the finished water, and also what's not in the water, I counted this morning, there's 230 different substances not in the water that we did test for. So I'm not sure if it's good if you have stuff in the water or not. There's this stuff called vitamin water, and they put a lot of stuff in that. So there's a lot of things not in the water, which is probably good news for us. So I appreciate the chance to give an update. I don't know if city manager, that's what you were looking for. I know that was pretty brief, but I think
Yeah.
it's safe, and we're making lots of adjustments, and there's a lot of work ahead from a watershed perspective.
Frank, I wasn't anticipating that you would be here for a full work session. It really was just sort of an opportunity for them to hear directly from you and not have it be in a memo form. So maybe you want to just hang out here for a couple of minutes, but I'm guessing that based on the hands that are up, maybe people just have other items of interest they want to share, or maybe there is one or two questions specific to you. I'll leave it up to you, Mayor, to kind of manage the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, or people can reach out directly if they have any questions. I'd be happy to answer anything that comes up offline as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm glad you mentioned the website, because I think not only will council, but the public will want to be able to follow this as you move along. It's actually very interesting, what you share. I appreciate it very much, and encouraging. So I have Councilor Semple and then Councilor Pryor, and I'll just let them kick it off.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a different subject we haven't talked about in a while, but it's been concerning me, and that is bike theft. You know, we're second after Manhattan, and it's not something to be proud of. It's always bothered me because the people whose bikes are stolen, it can be sad or annoying or devastating. If you use your bike to get to school or especially to a job and someone steals your bike, and now you can't get there. What if it's a Sunday? There's no buses, and you can't work, and you can't pay your rent, and now you're homeless because someone took your bike. I don't know what the upstream solution to this is. Why do people steal bikes? I think a bunch of it is driven by methamphetamine and drug addiction. So there's, you know, something we're looking at all the time is addiction help and cracking down on illegal drugs. Maybe poverty, but I don't think that there's a big market in used bikes. I think some methamphetamine users just use them like puzzles, take them apart and put them back together. I don't think there's a big market for them. And some people are just mean and selfish, and I don't know what to do about that. I know we have vape bikes and you can put your ID numbers on them. We need better places to lock them up. I'm puzzled as to what a possible solution or solutions would be. But with COVID and the wildfire and the jobs economy suffering so much, I think that this has become more of a critical problem for us, and that it might not be on our attention, but we should move it up the list a little bit. I'm really worried about people losing their transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. I probably should have asked if there is someone, if one of the councilors with a raised hand actually has a question to direct towards Frank, maybe we could let you go first. Is any of you eWeb related? Alan is eWeb related. I'm going to let Alan jump in so we don't have to hold Frank if he has other things. Go ahead, Councilor Zuleika.
Yeah, thank you, Frank, and thank you to all the folks on your staff that have worked really long, hard hours responding to all this, all the electrical people and all the water people and all the management people and all the staff people. I know it's been very, very difficult to go through that and see all your work that you've been doing for years and years get burned to the ground. Is just a really difficult thing to fathom. And there's just an enormous amount of work yet to be done. Maybe I'm very glad to hear that our water is clean and safe, and that you guys are totally on top of it. That's really why I asked in part for this, was to get you to come out and say that this water is, we're taking care of it, we're on top of it, we're measuring it, we're testing it all the time, and that it is safe to drink. And it did taste funky for a little while, but that didn't last very long. So thank you for that. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what the system's like up river, probably just burned to the ground, and maybe touch on, which I think is a very cool part of this whole story, which is the mutual aid that we received from other folks.
Thank you, Councilor. Yeah, like I mentioned, we were in multiple ICSs. One of those was electrical. and Lane Electric and eWeb primarily did a lot of work together, have done a lot of coordination since our systems basically butt up against each other in the McKenzie Valley. And so, you know, eWeb's territory still runs up through Vida, and then just to the east of Vida, it's Lane Electric out through Blue River. And so it is a pretty unique relationship in this industry. There's mutual aid agreements, and so utilities call on other utilities, you know, whether it be Sub or Lane Electric. We've loaned them designers. They've helped us with restorations. And this happens in storms. It happens in events like this. And so there was a lot of outreach to different utilities. It was a little bit unique for us, Councilor Zelenka, in this one, because in a storm, we usually set our own priorities. And in this one, we were working under the direction of Fire Command. And so for quite some time, we were not even given access to the areas that we needed to restore. To give you a little feel, there's about 300 eWeb power poles that were burned. Now, in a normal year, we would potentially replace about 150. And so about double what we would typically replace in a year. And then, you know, 75, 100 transformers. There's just, you know, the list goes on. We didn't have any supplier issues, which was good. But a lot of cooperation between the local utilities took place as far as resources, materials, design, and that's pretty unique in a lot of industries that you might expect to be competitive in other ways, but not in this one. So I appreciate you mentioning that, and thanks. You know, we always thank all the other utilities, and they always thank us, because that's usually, you know, what goes around comes around.
Thanks for that.
Okay, thank you. And I think, Frank, you're welcome to hang out here as long as you want, but I think that that was the last question that will be directed to you, and very much appreciate your making yourself available. And
Yes, well, thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks so much.
Otherwise, I'll duck out and let you continue with your meeting and your fun.
Thanks so much.
The rest of it's going to be scintillating, Frank.
Have a great evening.
Thank you. All right, Councilor Pryor and then Councilor Surratt.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to give a quick update. Today was the final meeting of the House Bill 2003 Housing Tools and Strategies Advisory Committee, and their recommended rules and code recommendations are going to go to the DLCD next month, and they will be reviewing those. And one of the things I wanted to mention, there's a million, and I even mentioned it last week, but the one takeaway for me was they're beginning to start doing regional housing needs analysis for different parts of the state. And it's preliminary, but they're beginning to get a sense of what is the need in terms of affordable housing and different housing within the different AMI categories. And I won't go into detail about that, but the one that really stood out was they are projecting right now, without having done more refined information, they're projecting right now that 29% of the housing that needs to be built in order to meet the regional housing needs of the lower income folks is going to require some kind of public support. That means close to a third of the housing we need to build is not going to get built unless it has some sort of public support, whether it's tax incentives or money or giving land away or regulatory, whatever it is. 29% is going to need some kind of support, and that directly affects us. In addition, there's likely another 17% on top of that that will probably need some level of public support. So we're looking at in the neighborhood of 40-45% of the housing that's going to need to get built in this state to support affordable housing can't just be built on its own. It will require us, whether it's the governments or whether it's some other form, is going to have to help that get built, or it won't pencil out. And that's a challenge because builders want to build housing, but they can't build what they can't afford to build. And so they need help. And when you're talking 46% is going to require public help, then we need to seriously start thinking about how we're going to do that. Because we can't just say, oh, we don't have it, we won't build it. The state is going to require us to have a plan for how we're going to help it get built. And that's what I was talking about last week. It's not something that we will be able to ignore. So it won't be on my watch, but it will be your challenge to figure out where that public support is going to come from to get that housing built. And so that's moving through right now, and it's going to go to the DLCD, and they're going to make their final recommendations for the law.
Hey, thank you. Councillor Surratt and then Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. So I had a few things I wanted to raise, but Councillor Semple's mention of concerns about bike theft. My immediate next door neighbor, former city councilor, Kevin Hornbuckle, as it happens to be, had his bike stolen out of his yard, locked up in his front yard just about a week ago. And I just received a report from another constituent about bike thefts near Washington Jefferson Park, and a story about a resident going over to reclaim a bike that was in the process of being chopped up by some folks who are living in an RV next to Washington Jefferson Park. So it is a real problem in the city, and I appreciate Councillor Semple mentioning it as something we shouldn't take focus off of as much as we're able. I wanted to just speak to real concern about the exponential rise in COVID cases. And, you know, I share the outrage of many in our community about parties that people are holding, that young people in particular are holding. So many of us have sacrificed so much to keep each other safe that it's infuriating to think that there are people out there who either don't care or don't think that it's serious and are literally endangering the lives of hundreds of people in our community. And so I appreciate the U of O and EPD making a commitment to doing the party patrols. I do think that's one way we can try to get at this. And I understand, you know, public health is not necessarily recommending full shutdowns as the way to go about trying to curb the rise in cases, and to be more focused on figuring out what the cause is. But I will say the hospital, the COVID unit at Riverbend is starting to fill up, and they've got plans to expand if needed. And we had hoped, you know, months ago it wasn't being used, and now it's almost fully utilized. So it's very concerning, and we need to keep that front of mind. On a different topic, I got an email from a constituent asking me what the city had done to promote and participate in the census 2020. And I just thought I'd ask the city manager if maybe either at another meeting or in a follow-up email, you might share with us what we've done to promote that, and also what the impacts of the results of that census are on our city government and future allocation of resources. And that's all. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Clark and Councillor Taylor, I did see you, so you'll be next after Mike. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. Two things. Number one, I want to continue on with what Chris was saying there. I think that his words were strong, but I think he soft sold the issue we'll be facing in this next year. I think that we've talked about goals, and we've talked about, so we had the goal setting and discussion here this couple weekends ago. I really think we need to be looking at not just low income housing, but how we can facilitate the idea of more homes being built in our community, and how we can all agree to do that, how we can all get on the same page to see that done. Supply is drastically low, and thus the prices are high. And I think that there are things we can do that don't require us to do a great deal of funding, but maybe reanalyze some of the decisions we've made in the last year that affect the price of building homes that we may want to reconsider. I will likely put out some manner of work session poll for that, but I hope we would go more deeply into it than just a quick work session. Secondarily, I got a question for the city manager that I asked in an email, but I didn't see a response, was with regard to public art and that which we participate in. I don't know if we're going to go through this as a separate subject later, Sarah, or no.
I was just, I didn't want to take up all the time before the public forum. So I was just saying, if you want to go into more detail, we can either wait to hear from the public and do that, or we can do it whenever.
Quick question, do we have, as any part of administrative policy or council policy, any standards with regard to the symbolism that we use in publicly subsidized art?
I don't know that we have any specific, especially not council policies about that, Councilor Clark. I'm still trying to learn about the different processes, and the process, honestly, that was used for this was different, and it wasn't our standard way that we go through our public art process. So it was more of a partnership with the community and a little bit different. So
in response to a friend's email to the city, I don't know who it was that sent the response, but someone from the city sent the response that the folks who developed the murals content were using Mr. Landero's face as a representation, as a symbol of activism. And that's fine, but I think I would encourage us to consider the idea that some symbols are more controversial, some symbols are more hurtful than others. If we were to invest in a mural with a traitor flag or a Confederate flag on it, or swastika on it, some people would find great offense at that symbolism. And I think that this particular symbol, the rest of the mural, I don't understand the use of the officer there entirely, but I don't think that's necessary either. But I hope we're going to correct that as opposed to leave a symbol that's offensive to so many. Would you like to comment on where we are with that, Sarah?
Sure. Well, Renee's team is preparing. I did ask him to prepare a response to your question. I just don't have it just yet.
Sure.
I will share with you that that I met with some of the members of the team today that work on public art to understand as much as I could about the process, which is not a ton yet, but I will say that I offered in that meeting that it's an interesting place when, you know, the council has really, I do think you have some pretty specific guidelines and policy decisions around naming. And we're going to be talking about that again in November. And I was just bringing up, like, you know, it's sort of interesting because art is a different way of kind of naming things. And we have real specific guidelines about how we do that. So I think there's a lot of room here for improvement and an improvement to the processes. I think you're bringing up really good points. And, you know, I think part of what I feel bad about is that that image is one piece of a really big story that is kind of getting lost along the way. I know we have reached out to the artists and to the community members that participated because they're also hearing from lots of different parts of the community about that specific image. And they're doing some reflection on that piece. So I think we're still in the process of learning what could come next. And I'm just staying open to that and trying not to decide too quickly that I know all the right answers.
I don't either, but I've noticed that I watched an interview with Mr. Landero's children's mother.
Mike, you are way over time.
May I have a second round?
I'll let you come back. Yes. Okay. Counselor Taylor.
You're still muted.
You're still muted, Betty.
Thank you. Alan, I'll learn someday, don't worry. I've had two rather urgent things. I did want to drink a toast to Frank Lawson when he was here. I have my glass of water here, but one thing that I hadn't thought of before, or hadn't thought of saying, a great man in this community died a few days ago, and one of his accomplishments, I was reminded when you were talking about Indigenous Peoples Day, one of his accomplishments was to get 3 tribes recognized and to restore some rights to some other tribes. That's among many accomplishments. But that was Jim Weaver, who was really a great citizen, a great congressman in the past. And then 2 things that are urgent to my constituents: pedestrian safety over and over and over, but lately it's been about downtown, and I know they're right. I personally know 3 people who've been hit by cars downtown over the years, and I have almost been hit. I've had people honk at me when I'm crossing on a walk signal and act as if I'm in their way, which I am, of course, because they want to move. And we need to do something about safety downtown. I've said this many, many times, but it's a very hot topic right now. Then the other topic, of course, is the mural, which my colleague just mentioned. And I have answers to some questions, and I'd like them in public. Whose property is it on? And who authorized it? And who approved the design, if somebody approved it? And who was paid for it? And how much city money? And if they did not have authorization for the 2 corners of the mural, the person who got the money should repay it to the city. And it should be corrected. The 2 corners should be erased. They have been hurtful to many people in different ways. And I don't know how they go in with multiculturalism. I think it is disgraceful. Really, I was asked to see it. I went to see it. I couldn't believe it. And I guess that's all I have right now. But I'd like the answers to those questions in the public meeting, not just in a memo. Thank you.
Okay, I guess you're going to come back with some response to that later. Is that what we're thinking?
Yeah, and I want to make sure that what I'm providing is accurate, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to get all of those answers tonight. So it could be that I need to make a statement at the beginning of either the next meeting or something, or have Renee do that. So
perfect. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, it looks like Alan wants a second round, and then Councilors Lenka and then Councilor Clark.
Yeah, my first round was with Frank. So I had 2 things to talk about. One is the our committee on police reform, our ad hoc committee, has had its 2nd meeting. They're off and running, and they're now talking about, I think, the meat of the issues. Last time they talked about the police oversight with the police auditor, the Citizen Review Board, and the Police Commission. Most cities don't even have one of those. We have all 3 levels, as Senator Manning, who was at the meeting, said to us. I was a little disappointed that in the turnout from the council, though. We had the mayor, Councilor Ye, Councilor Evans, Councilor Pryor, and myself there. I think it's very important for us to participate, and Emily was there too, hear what's going on and participate and listen to it. It's coming back to us. It's our committee. So I think we should endeavor to try to get there. I learned a lot over the last meeting, and I thought I knew a lot about that whole oversight committee. The second thing, I wanted to echo Claire's concern and a little bit of outrage about the number of COVID cases and on the rise. It's just so disheartening and so crazy that this doesn't need to occur, yet here we are flying head first without a mask into a second wave, and it just doesn't have to be like that. It's surprising to me how many people either don't know or don't care what's going on and keeping their social distancing, keeping their parties to a minimum number of people and wearing masks, I think it's not that difficult to do. And so I guess, you know, and most of what I've heard is the group from 21 to 30 is the big cohort of groups we're seeing now with a lot of the reported cases, and with home parties and other kinds of parties, and it's where they're getting together, and it's not businesses. So doing a business shutdown isn't going to do anything because that's not where the problem lies. So I guess I'm wondering, City Manager, what we are doing with regard to these large parties. What are we doing to police them? Do we have the authority to either cite people for size of parties, not social distance, masks, give them some fines? I think that's probably going to be, for a lot of folks, that's going to be the only way they hear or learn about this, might be. So do we have the authority, and what are we doing?
We do have the authority to do that, and we have, in fact, given out citations at some of those large parties, and have agreed to start doing some party patrols with the U of O to try to break some of that up. So we do have the ability to do it, and the authorization. The issue is really just like everything. It's the, you know, what calls for service are emerging in that moment that may keep us from being able to do all that we would want to.
So are we going to be ramping up, giving out citations? I know the calls for service is a big deal. I mean, we don't want to be citing someone for not wearing a mask when there's someone that's in physical danger or some other crime has been committed. But
yeah, it's definitely a potential that we're continuing to explore. We've also been trying to get the message out through neighborhood associations who do a lot of that sort of like monitoring of what's happening in their own neighborhoods, and just really calling on everybody to do their part. But yes, we can do that.
Okay.
thanks.
You're muted.
Councillor Clark, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to finish the thought that I was on there and add another that I watched an interview tonight with Shayla, who is Mr. Landero's his two children's mother, speaking for his children. They both want that picture to come down. And it's not just about the police officers who obviously are in some trauma from having been involved in that situation, but his daughter, who was standing right there when it happened, who wants that to come down. I understand the importance of symbols of activism in our community, and I'm fine with that. But there are some symbols that go too far. I once made excuses years and years and years ago that the Confederate flag was a symbol of a culture. And I was wrong when I made that argument. And I've gotten much better educated since then, and I call it the traitor flag now, because that's what it is. And it's not okay. It causes too much pain for too many people. And it's okay for us to say we got something wrong and now we want to make it right. That's okay. That's how we learn and grow. And I think in this case, we got this one wrong, and we can choose a better symbol and work with the artist to do that. And I think that's the appropriate response, because I think his picture needs to come down. So I hope we can find a way to do that peacefully and honorably for everybody. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think with that, there are plenty of things on our plates that will come back from that discussion. But for now, I think it is time to open the public forum. And so let me do that formally.
Consent calendar, is that first?
Oh, I skipped right over that. Again, I did that last week. Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Could we have a motion on a consent calendar, please?
First, I want to point out a change that's needed on the July 29th minutes when we voted on the Northwest Natural franchise. Councilor Taylor and I voted against it, but it says it passed 6-0, so that needs to be changed to 6-2. So I move to approve the consent calendar with that correction.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, thank you. That passes. And now I will go on to open. I think that's the second time in a row I've skipped right over the consent calendar. All right, the public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak. When it is your turn and your microphone has been unmuted, please state your name clearly and, for Eugene residents, your ward if known, before beginning your comments. If you are watching the meeting, the timer should be visible. A yellow light will come on when you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light and beep indicate the end of the 2 minutes. When your time has concluded, the moderator will mute your microphone and move on to the next speaker. For those who have connected to the meeting via phone and don't have the benefit of seeing the timer, please be aware that your microphone will be muted at the 2-minute mark. And with that, I believe I'm ready to turn it over to the moderator to open it up for speakers.
Thank you, Mayor. Our first speaker will be Joel Iboa, the chairman of the Human Rights Commission.
How many speakers?
5.
Good afternoon. Can y'all hear me okay? Can you see me? Okay, we'll just be hearing from us. Okay, perfect. When I got all dressed up for no reason, y'all. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Hey folks, Jolie Baugh here with Chair of the Human Rights Commission. Great to see all your faces, virtually at least. I know it's been a while since we've seen each other face to face. But I'm here to talk to you a little bit about Columbus Day. I want to start off by saying that I live in Ward 7, Councilor Surratt's ward. But it's really important today to tell the truth about the past. And the truth about the past is that Columbus did not discover a continent in which people were already living on. Violence and genocide against Indigenous people are as American as apple pie. And it is important that we also recognize the truth about today. That racism and oppression are alive and well, and that we're missing the voices and perspectives of many. I think the uprisings for racial justice over the summer have taught us that. The reality of COVID and its disproportionate effect on BIPOC communities have taught us that. But the reality is that we have Indigenous populations all across North America that are represented in our community, and that's no different here in Eugene. We still have a lot to do. It's important today to remember that today is not a day of discovery. Today is not a day of the crashing of two worlds. The reality is that historical violence against Black, Indigenous, and people of color cannot be our future. It was our past, it is our present, but it cannot be our future. Change is coming, but today we celebrate a victory. Today we celebrate Resolution 5148, adopted in 2016, a resolution that you all passed declaring the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day. Today is a day of dignity, a day of resistance, and a day to recognize the struggle of Indigenous groups. I thank you for your time. I thank you for all the work you're doing to help our community safe, and I hope to see you all soon.
Thank you. Our next speaker is David, followed by Joshua.
Hi. I didn't think this would be the case, but I've missed you all. I've missed these meetings, even though I don't agree with the majority of you. But I was a little bit hurt that about the UPS that only Betty Taylor had the courage to not agree with giving them 3 years of tax-free business. But I do appreciate that Emily at least did the one with what you just said, the gas or You know, you're trying to cut down on fossil fuels. I don't like it that you guys get to talk so much after it's art. I thought that at 7:30 is when we're supposed to talk. And we never get an extra 3 minutes or 2 minutes or anything. Anyway, about Zelenka saying that UPS or Western Union, I don't remember which of the two, was around before the post office, that's wrong. Benjamin Franklin was the first postmaster in 1775. UPS was founded in 1907. And Western Union in 1866. When Western Union or the other one have a package that they have to deliver to an area where it's difficult for them to reach and it's not very rewarding, they give it to the post office. The post office sustains itself with its own selling stamps and all. They don't get any money from the government. They deliver that for these private companies that don't want to do it. Yeah. How much money is it that we're talking about that we're exempting these 3 years that we're giving them a break? There's something that sounds very
Thank you. That's all the time we have this evening.
dishonest. Thank you. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Joshua, followed by a caller with phone number ending in 327.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Joshua Korn, resident South Eugene, Betty Taylor's ward. And in continuing effort to encourage you to pass a moratorium on 5G and small cells, I'm going to quote a couple sources from resilience.org. Degrowth challenges the idea that economic growth is the only way to achieve prosperity and well-being for all. Growth does not improve our lives. Instead, the pursuit of infinite economic growth on a finite planet has led to both vast social inequality and ecological destruction. Degrowth also rejects claims for which there is no empirical evidence or theoretical justification that we would be able to continue to pursue infinite economic growth without accelerating the global ecological crisis. And from rethinkingsecurity.org.uk, Bristol was the first city in the UK to declare a climate emergency, followed earlier this year by an ecological emergency. And herein lies the conundrum. Can a city be both green and smart? Will wireless technology deliver a green transition, or will it push us further towards ecological disaster? Although this digital high-tech future is sold to us as a means to a socially just and sustainable world, smart cities, energy efficiency, it is essentially about economic growth and is already having a devastating environmental impact. The fact is that digital technologies demand unprecedented amounts of mineral extraction, create large amounts of toxic waste, and are highly energy intensive. Yet most of us are barely aware of this. The use of digital devices often traps us in a separate reality, disconnected from the physical presence of one another.
Thank you. That's all the time we have tonight.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. This is William Smith, also known as Rowan, Ward 1. And I'm also here to talk about wireless safety. And since it's Indigenous Peoples Day, I'd like to point out that the Kituwa Band of the Cherokee Indians in Oklahoma won a federal case in August of last year, so a little over a year ago, challenging the FCC order that, among other things, said that you cannot do environmental reviews. And that part of the order was specifically vacated by the federal court in DC, case number 181129, saying that FCC, sorry, no, cities can do environmental reviews. So we have lost some time since the work session of last October where we could have actually done environmental reviews, is my understanding. I hope that we'll catch up for lost time as best we can. There's a lot at stake. The Kituwa knew that health and safety of their citizens and their workers is at stake, and it is for us as well. And I'm heartened that the city's public works director will be sitting down shortly with the city attorney to discuss this case and other relevant cases. That's my understanding. And please keep going in the right direction. There's a lot at stake for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor, that concludes the public forum.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you for those of you who took the time to speak. We appreciate that. And we know it was a little bit of a wait as we worked through a few other things first. Are there any counselors who wish to comment on anything they heard in the public forum? Okay, I see none. We will now move on to the other business of the night. And the first piece is action related to the Eugene Airport Master Plan. So City Manager, do you need to introduce this?
I certainly can. We have 3 different action items tonight, all of which you've had a recent public hearing on. So the first one is on the Airport Master Plan. You initiated this update, or the City Council initiated the update on September 9th of 2019. And we've been working on that. You've had several presentations. You had a joint public hearing with the Lane County Board of Commissioners on September 16th. So tonight you're scheduled to do action, and then the Lane County Board of Commissioners are scheduled to take their final action on October 20th.
Thank you. Councilor Semple, you want to put the motion on the table?
Move to adopt the ordinance adopting the updated Eugene Airport Master Plan as a refinement to the Eugene Springfield Metropolitan Area General Plan, Metro Plan.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Councilor Zelenka.
Yeah, thanks. I was particularly interested in some of the response that we got back about the conservation carbon emissions and some of the cool things that we're doing. I know that all public buildings over a certain dollar amount, $5 million, which I think some of our things like the terminal are going to be above that, would require 1.5% to be spent on solar, except airports are exempt. So, but I would still like us to do that. And I think I would like us to commit to that for, because there are cost benefits. It's not a net cost, it's net benefit, and resiliency benefits that we can gain with solar, especially if we have battery backup so that it can be a resilient facility. So I think those are really important outcomes that we want to see. And I'd like us to commit to that before I make a motion to do that, but I'm not gonna do that today. If need be, someday when we start getting onto these projects, I may, but we may well be doing that as part of the, well, we got the 20 grand that we're not spending on the airport carbon accreditation program, but we're also in the pilot for the airport cooperative research program for the guidebook for zero and low emission roadmap and some of the other things. So I wonder if staff could speak to what we're intending to do there and whether or not 1.5% could be part of our commitment.
Dan, you want me to take that one? Okay. Councilor Zelenka, thank you for that. And, you know, certainly I think that is something that as we reach those planning activity levels to the point where we would need to build out the C concourse, it would be absolutely reasonable and smart to add in a solar component. Yeah, as we discussed at our last meeting, you know, there's airports, you got to be careful about it. And I know that the technology has really improved, especially over the past few years. So reflectivity is not as much of an issue, but anything that we would do around solar installation at the airport, we would need to work very closely with our FAA partners to make sure that we're doing it in a safe way. But I agree, I think it would be a great thing to pursue. So I'll pledge that to you at this point, that when we reach that point, we will certainly take a good solid look at how we might implement that.
Yeah, like you said, the price is just dramatically different than it was just 5 years ago. I mean, it's dropped like from $6 a watt to under, like if you do a big enough project and get in that $2 range. So it's substantially different than it was just a couple of years ago. And so that makes them very cost effective. So that's the cost benefit. In fact, a lot of people see a net benefit from that in terms of cost. And then just the resiliency benefits. Hooking it up with some batteries like Tesla power packs or other things like that can create an enormous benefit for a facility that really needs to be resilient during an emergency. And so I really encourage us to look at that really strongly when time comes. And I think that maybe you could speak to the pilot program that we're taking the opportunity.
Sure, the ACRP pilot program. So we're one of 2 airports in the nation that are participating in this pilot program. And it's really a greenhouse emission reduction roadmap. So we're working very closely with the consultant. They're taking a deep dive on all of the different aspects of the airport and finding areas where we can short-term, mid-term, long-term reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. So we feel like doing this instead of just paying into a program where you get the gold star, it's more meaningful because we're really part of a study where we are coming out with outcomes that will then be shared out to the entire airport industry, and other airports can put these same types of roadmaps into place for their airports.
That's very cool. Thanks for getting us involved in that. I look forward to hearing about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, if we are ready to vote, all in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Excellent. Thank you so much. That passes. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next steps on this. Thank you so much, Catherine. Okay. The next action item is an ordinance amending the Eugene Springfield Metropolitan Area General Plan Diagram and Willackenzie Area Plan Diagram related to rezoning from campus industrial to light medium industrial, and rezone property from E1 campus employment to E2 mixed use employment. So manager, do you need to explain this?
Sure thing. So it's kind of an interesting thing because the title often says what it is, but just to remind everybody, Shepherd Motors, who is the applicant for this proposal, is intending to develop an automobile dealership in the northeast area of town between I-5 and Old Coburg Road on the south side of Game Farm Road. That intended development requires amendments to land use diagrams in both the Metro Plan and the Willackenzie Area Plan, and a zone change from E1 campus employment to E2 mixed use employment. The Planning Commission has held a public hearing on the applicant's request and unanimously recommended approval. 3 weeks ago, you held a public hearing on these proposed changes, and tonight you have a chance to deliberate that. And we have staff here if you need to ask any questions, and you are also able to take action tonight.
Thank you. So Councillor Semple, I'm going to suggest you put the motion on the table and then we can discuss if needed.
Move to adopt the ordinance included as attachment B to this AIS, amending the Eugene Springfield Metropolitan Area General Plan Diagram and the Willackenzie Area Plan Diagram to redesignate the property identified as Assessor's Map 17-03-16-41, tax lots 201, 300, and 400, and Assessor's Map 17-03-16-44, tax lots 400 and 800, from campus industrial to light medium industrial and rezone the property from E1 campus employment to E2 mixed use employment.
Second.
All right, any questions, clarifications, concerns about this motion? Councilor Zelenka.
Yeah, thank you. A couple of things. One was the Planning Commission's recommendation to, if they don't build it, we revert it. That's not something we can legally, I think, do. I was a little surprised by that from the Planning Commission, but which is why it's not part of the recommendation. The second question I have relates to what are the uses in an E2 that you can't do in E1? So if they don't end up building the car dealership, what other things could be built there that couldn't be built there when it was E1?
Yeah, so this is Jeff Kepper with the Planning Division. So included in the packet and the materials that you got, there was actually a color-coded table that identified which uses were allowed. To summarize those briefly, some of the ones that are allowed in E2 that aren't allowed in E1, first and foremost is an automobile sales and service dealership. And then there's also things like—
Yeah, I got that one.
Yeah, naturally. Light manufacturing, there's some, it's mostly associated with the kind of technological manufacturing of materials and things like that. There are some larger and more intensive uses, which is why the Planning Commission made their recommendation the way they did, knowing that there were some uses that they felt might not be as compatible. But the materials that were provided to you during the public hearing would have that full list of uses in there. Do you want me to go back into those materials for you? Would that be helpful?
What page was it on?
Oof, that's a good test.
Oh, in our most recent packet?
No, sorry. It was in the previous.
Okay,
it was in for the public hearing materials.
Oh, okay, I didn't see it. Yeah, okay, that's on a stick. It's easier, a little harder to get at.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you could just give a little bit more examples of types of uses you need to.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody has any other questions, I'd be happy to take those while I pull up that piece of that material.
Oh, well, I have another question. It relates to the right adjacent to this property is the Stonebridge Apartments in R2. They're in the northwest corner. And so this is going to be a car dealership. I know when I used to fly around for business, you could easily spot all the car dealerships at night because they were the brightest, biggest things in the entire metro area, wherever city I went to, including Eugene, you could always spot them. So I'm wondering about these adjacent properties that are residential apartments and the impacts from lights and from noise. And is that very common to have E2 adjacent to an R2? These are all yes, no questions there, Jeff. Just kidding.
Yeah, I was going to say, so in terms of commonality, I don't think I can answer that. The one thing that I would like to raise in regards to that is that there's not necessarily a criterion that's directly applicable to that. However, I would say that our outdoor lighting standards and existing codes that are in place to mitigate those impacts should, mitigate how do I say that? They should, the standards we have in place should mitigate the potential negative externalities of an automotive dealership. That being said, again, I don't think there's a criterion that necessarily within the zone change or metro plan amendment that would actually apply in this case.
Yeah, I just think that's going to be tough to mitigate the way I know car dealerships operate. But did you come up with the other uses?
Yeah, absolutely. I can just list off a few of those. So like I said, the majority of them are within the manufacturing sector. So things like cleaning and dyeing, contractor storage yard, furniture, fixtures, recycling, blood bank under medical health uses, hotel, motel is another one that would be allowed. An art gallery, studio, ballet, dance, martial arts, gymnastics studio. Those are all kind of the primary changes other than the automotive dealership.
That wouldn't be allowed in E1.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, any other questions, comments? All right, we're ready to vote. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that passes 8-0. Thank you so much. And now we're on to our final action of the night regarding the digital sign code. So again, manager, do you want to speak to this?
I do actually want to speak to this one. So this is the code amendment that you initiated early on to allow for digital billboards. So the proposed amendments to the code would regulate and allow digital billboards in some locations where traditional billboards have been already allowed, limited digital sign components for service station and drive-through uses, and digital signs or reader boards for institutional uses such as schools, recreation centers, and places of worship. You held a public hearing about this on September 12th, and we got some testimony that was, you got some testimony from the Planning Commission. You also heard from some of the industry reps. And what you'll see in your packet was a recommendation from me to just accept the code amendments and take action on those as is without doing the pilot project. And I know a couple of people had questions about that. Our public works staff went back, took another look at it, looked at all the crash data that you had asked us to look at, and realized that really, because it's a code amendment, if we actually experience those things, we can change the code without doing a pilot project. And we don't really feel like a pilot project would allow for enough time for us to really understand it. So it just makes more sense to move forward with the code. We'll monitor it, and if something seems like it's not right, we can always come back.
Okay, thank you for that. I have Councilor Pryor in the queue.
Thank you. I just wanted to quickly ask before a motion gets put out, and I appreciate all the work and the second and third looks at this. I really do. So what a question and then perhaps a request. The first question is that I guess in reading this, there were some arterial streets that were unintentionally omitted from the original draft. Do you know if they have been put back into what we're looking at tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're already there. Perfect. Okay. Then the only request I would have, and this would be to Councilor Semple when she makes the motion, is to ask that we approve this with one modification, that is to, in section 10A of 9.6640, change the 10-second to 8 seconds, which is an industry standard, and staff supports this change. So I don't think it's a controversial one, and if the maker of the motion is willing to do it, to save me from having to move to amend.
Councilor Pryor, I believe we've already added that in.
Yes.
Oh, the draft I looked at still said 10. It's been changed to 8? Okay, never mind. That sounds great then. I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor Zelenka and then Councilor Clark.
Thank you. Is there a deadline for this? Is there a need to move this today? I didn't see there was any. I'm interested in discussion about why, after the Planning Commission suggested that we basically pull the digital component of this and have them do some more work on it, why we aren't allowing that to happen, since there's no deadline or time constraint that we need to adhere to.
Nessa, do you want to
Usually we
speak
try
to
to
that, or I
accommodate
can?
our boards and commissions and they
pull-
ask for something like that.
I'm
I'll
happy to
recommend it.
speak a little to the process. Excuse me. So the pilot program came up as after being referenced in an internal memo from staff, and it wasn't necessarily fully formulated or thought out in how it would run. And so once we kind of thought about it and talked about it with the Planning Commission as well as internally with staff, we really kind of ran up against some real obstacles with doing a pilot approach. One part is that it really was focused on allowing us to do a study. And the reality is that there have been numerous studies in looking at traffic safety with digital billboards. It is really difficult to tie a causality from accidents and the distraction from driving. So at best, you can kind of make a case that there's some distraction that it adds to driving, but whether those distractions rise to a level that actually can contribute and cause an accident, and certainly a more severe or fatal accident. And most of these accidents are rear endings and things that cause minor property damage and not so much injury. So the idea of Eugene kind of piloting a study that would come up with some definitive results on tying the cause of any accidents to a digital billboard, it's really kind of impossible to make those conclusions. And that's what, as we kept discussing it and going further and further, that really became evident that we wouldn't really be able to give you anything definitively in terms of whether these are really causing accidents. So that's where we went back and Public Works staff wrote another memo to try to kind of clarify that, because it was a little bit of a protracted discussion around it. And Planning Commission was just concerned about the lack of definitive conclusions in the studies. And so it just remained a little bit of a concern for them whether there were safety concerns, and they wanted to keep that option open.
So since we're not going to do a pilot, that concern by the Planning Commission goes away?
I think that the idea is that the direction that we're going, whether you do a pilot program and allow kind of time to transpire and you see what the reaction is, it wouldn't really give you information, definitive information on the safety of the signs. You would probably find out more in terms of, you might hear more from the public about how they feel once signs go up and and they're getting used to seeing them in the community. But as far as answering the safety question, no conclusions are going to come out of that study.
Chris?
Okay.
Chris had his hand up.
Oh,
Chris Henry.
Yeah.
Chris Fryer.
Councilor, as Janessa said, Public Works staff reviewed public testimony and the studies that have been made over the years for quite some time. And the challenges are in having a sample size that could yield statistically valid data that would help us discern the difference between correlation and causality. We might know that a crash occurred near a digital billboard, but we might not know that the digital billboard was the cause of the crash. And as Janessa said, one benefit is that the public could weigh in potentially with their perception of those signs. But with a limited sample size and the difficulty in discerning the difference between correlation and causality, we would have a very difficult ability or challenge in providing any evidence of potential safety impacts. That doesn't mean we don't have concerns. We share concerns as staff about the risk presented by digital billboards, but we don't have the data that validates those concerns. It's just not resolute. And much of those studies have been debated, and there's a lot of concern from the Federal Highway Administration study. There's been a lot of critique about its outcomes. So there's no clear answer here. And that leads to our recommendation of go forward with your implementation of digital billboards. And as the city manager said, you could revisit it at some time in the future if you had concern.
If it becomes a problem, right? Okay, 2 questions. Probably should have asked this one last time, but I read this a couple of times and I still don't quite get what drive-through signs are. If someone could, I know what the dimensions of it are, but I'm not quite sure. Can somebody explain that to me a little bit so I get a visual?
Help with that one.
Thanks, Mike.
So in our community, the term fast food restaurants, there's national chains that are common. And so some of those have utilized more than one ordering lane where you come with your vehicle and you say your order out the window. And oftentimes we're starting to see some new digital signs that are the menu board, and also digital signs that will provide the customer confirmation of their order. And so some research was done of signs in the community already, and this proposal is designed to meet that need currently and sometime into the future.
So this is modernizing because they already exist.
Correct.
Yeah, so this is modernizing our, okay, that's what I thought it meant, but I wasn't sure. And one more question on page 76, 9.6640, general provisions, locational standards, setbacks. Why was the language on the setbacks deleted and this other language put in place?
Yeah, that was simply a clarification. There was a reference in the E1 zone that didn't match up. And so now we're consistent both here in the sign section and in the E1 section.
Oh, okay. And this wouldn't apply to the New Shepherd property because it's E2.
Right.
All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Mayor, before you,
yeah.
Mayor, before you go on, I just want to take one quick backseat to a comment that Councilor Pryor made. I know that we changed the code to be 8 seconds in the digital billboards, but it looks like that still has a 10-second reference in signs. And so I'm curious if that was something that we meant to change in both places. Because if we did, we need to just go ahead and maybe jump in and make an amendment, or if those are different.
On page 77.
Yeah. In the meantime, you could go to the next person. I just wanted to make sure that the intent was for it to be 8 seconds in both places.
And I'll just ask, where is the reference? I think Councilor Pryor said 9.6640.
9.6640 10A.
10A.
Lauren, do you want to jump in?
Oh, thank you, City Manager and Assistant City Attorney Lauren Summers. I wanted to clarify with Councilor Pryor. I believe the code section you referenced was 9.664 sub 10. And when I'm looking in my version of the packet, the dwell time for digital signs for institutional uses is still at 10 seconds. The dwell time for digital billboards has been changed to 8 seconds in those code provisions. And so I wanted to clarify if you were intending that everything be 8 seconds, or if you were specifically intending that the dwell time for digital billboards be changed, which has already happened in the version of the ordinance attached in your packet.
I was just curious why it needed to be different. They don't seem like they're substantially different kinds of signage.
Vanessa, you're on mute. Sorry.
Just realized that. They're different functions. And so the 10 seconds was what we started with. The digital billboards, the industry specifically requested the 8 seconds as an industry standard. And that has to do in part with how they allocate their minutes each hour and how they donate signage to public service announcements and nonprofits. On digital signs for institutional uses, it doesn't have that same kind of accounting for donating some of the time for PSAs. And so you can certainly change it to 8 seconds. It was written as 10 because of, consistency across the board. But there wasn't the same ask to reduce it to 8 seconds for institutional signs as there was for the digital billboards. That was really specific to that. I think staff's pretty neutral on whether it's 10 seconds or 8 seconds for institutional signs. If you want to be consistent, we could certainly make that amendment.
I don't need to make this more complicated, so I'm okay. Leave it the way it is.
Go with 9.
Okay, Councillor Clark, then Councillor Semple.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is to whomever on staff is the most appropriate to answer it. Our current recommended motion, staff recommended motion, would you characterize it as closest to the original motion at Planning Commission?
Say that again, which motion?
Would you characterize it as closest to the original motion at Planning Commission?
Yes, the original direction from staff a year ago was to take action, provide an ordinance that basically would allow traditional billboards to be converted into digital.
Well, my meaning there is that I wanted to say just a quick note of appreciation to Commissioner Borofsky for his integrity. I appreciated that when he spoke before us and talked about the Planning Commission's work. Although he was one of those who voted against, he made sure to tell us that the original motion presented by Planning Commission would have passed 4-3, except for that the maker of the motion ended up getting cut off. And so to me, that represented the majority of Planning Commission's opinion. And I just wanted to make sure that this version of what we're seeing tonight was as close to that original motion as possible.
The only difference is that original motion that didn't pass because of the phone getting dropped. That was going more the direction of the pilot program, but that was also without having the advantage of the extra, staff discussion and working with Chris Henry and Public Works management to determine that the pilot approach wasn't necessarily the best way for staff to recommend moving forward. It did acknowledge, though, that the Planning Commission in general was supportive of moving forward. That it was just they were grappling with how to handle the safety concerns.
Okay, thank you. And again, I think that Mr. Borofsky is a stand-up guy, and I thought that was really cool that he did that. So I just want to say it out loud.
Thank you. Councillor Semple, then Councillor Syret.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to divide this. I have 2 different feelings about the signs and the billboards. So is that possible? It seems like really 2 different things. And I'm fine with your hamburger menu changing, and I'd love it if it told me how many hamburgers I was ordering. But I'm opposed to billboards in general. I think we have too much advertising already. I do think they're distracting, regardless of the small statistics. So I don't really care whether they're 8 or 10 seconds because I don't want them at all. So Catherine, as city attorney, can we do that before or after the motion is put on the table?
There's not really a way to divide the motion. The motion is to adopt the ordinance. So you would either need to propose specific amendments to the ordinance or vote no. And then if it fails, then we could come back with a revised ordinance. But the motion to divide is when the motion itself is actually 2 separate components. And this is to adopt an ordinance that has stuff combined. So,
okay, that's fine. I'll just vote no.
Okay, sorry.
All right, Councillor Syret, and then Councillor Zelenka for a second round.
Yeah, thank you. So when, we were first approached with this idea, I was pretty neutral on it. I thought it was fine. I didn't have any big objections. And now I'm becoming more of an advocate than I thought I would be. I really appreciate the follow-up that staff has done to reconsider the idea of a pilot project, and recognizing that the value to us of doing that is really, a set of diminishing returns in terms of what we would learn from it. And I appreciate you incorporating the pieces that we heard from the public hearing. And I want to appreciate the work of the Planning Commission. And, I often defer to them and their expertise, but I feel like this is one instance where we should step a little more boldly than they had been feeling like we should. I think overall, these electronic billboards are going to be a net positive rather than a net negative. The worry about safety just simply is not borne out by the research. Yes, people can be distracted by signs, but that is true with the signs we have up now. And we're not making a proposal to take down all of our billboards, in spite of the fact that at least one counselor, and I know other folks in the community don't like them, but they are part of our landscape in terms of supporting local business. And it's not clear that there's any statistical correlation between the locations of digital billboards and crashes. It simply isn't possible to make that connection. So I really feel like this pandemic and the recent fires have shown an incredible value of having large signs that could be reprogrammed in over the course of an hour to carry a public safety message. I had one constituent who, gave public comment via email against these, who asked me separately, why do we need them at all? And I think this is a reason that we need them, in order to try to get out timely public safety messages. Imagine if back in February, we had a venue where our public health agency could have changed the message as our scientists learned more and more about how to protect ourselves in the pandemic. The amount of public education that could have been put out via these billboards. And the same is true for viruses. So for the fires. So I think the argument that the proponents made that these types of signs should be allowed for smaller business to get their message out because it's less expensive, less risky, is even also more true in today's pandemic. So I think we should pass this tonight and provide an additional means of support for our local businesses sooner rather than later.
Okay, we have Councillor Zelenka and then Councillor Clark.
So sort of not quite where Emily is, but I do think billboards are more or less visual pollution for the most part. But if I understand this correctly, let me ask this a question. The provisions about digital billboards, they don't increase the number of billboards that we would allow. They just allow them to be digital.
Yes, since all of the existing standards for traditional billboards have been in place for some time, billboard companies have kind of scoured the community, and there are probably a handful of locations that maybe haven't been utilized yet, but those will be very limited. So it would just be basically replacing existing billboards.
And those could be done, those handful or so could be put up today as billboards, right?
Correct.
Right. So I don't really think we're going to get more. It's just a matter of having them change and be modernized into digital billboards. So I'm not a big, huge fan of billboards, but I can live with modernization of these things. It probably, Claire's argument was a tiny bit persuasive. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Ye hasn't had a chance, and then I'm going to let Councillor Clark wrap it up. So Councillor Ye.
Yeah, thanks. I agree with Alan. I thought Claire's argument was very coherent and excellent. I think through this process, what has really made me think was how much we need to not undervalue affordable advertising for our community and for our businesses. And oftentimes, small businesses or nonprofits, they just can't afford a lot of the advertising options that are out there. And so adding a tool to their toolbox can be extremely valuable, especially right now. So I also believe we should pass this, but I did have a question. You mentioned how even if we're not doing the pilot project, we can still collect feedback and kind of monitor the situation. But are you planning to do that actively, or just like if people choose to send us feedback, then we'll look at it?
I think
when I just
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask Chris to talk about just sort of how we monitor accidents and Vision Zero work generally.
Well, we call them crashes because it's
right,
no
not
accident.
accidents.
It's no accident that they happen. Just to get that on the record. How we get crash report data from the Oregon Department of Transportation more than a year after the crash happens. So that's one problem. One potential way around that is mining through the data that we receive from the Eugene Police Department. But that data is only if, if there's an officer present and if the crash is severe enough to warrant that kind of a call. In order to report to the Department of Motor Vehicles, the requirement is that the crash damage be $2,500 or more, or somebody's injured in the crash. As Janessa mentioned earlier, the crashes are typically, through inattention, they would be typically rear end crashes. The worst case is somebody runs through a red light and there's a T-bone type of a collision, of course, or that a vulnerable user, somebody walking or biking, is struck by an automobile. That would be an unfortunate outcome. But we have a limited source of the data. And then the next level would be, well, what caused the crash?
Right. So let's say that a digital billboard goes up, and it sounds like the studies don't support this, but what if we started to see an increase in a very specific location? Is there any way that we would know that that's happening besides just on accident? Like, is there a system that like, oh, we're starting to see a bunch of crashes in this one spot?
Well, that's the challenge between correlation and causality. We correlate the proximity of the crash to the billboard, but it would take somebody telling us, yeah, I crashed because I was looking up at the billboard and not paying attention to driving. And that's as good as people telling you that they were on the telephone.
So what you're saying is we would know a bunch of crashes happened somewhere, and then we could decide what we wanted to do about it.
Yes.
Okay.
You may or may not have good information to inform that decision, though.
Right. Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Can I add real quick to that? I just was going to point out that just to illustrate how complicated the data can be, if you recall in the agenda summary, we provided some crash data as follow-up, and the I-5 digital billboard in Springfield, if you recall, the numbers on that one showed that there were more crashes in I think it was 3 years prior to installation than there were after. Well, considering that they were doing a massive construction project on that whole interchange, probably during that similar time frame, that's an example where there's just so many, it's a dynamic world we live in. And so there's constantly going to be different distractions going on, whether it's construction or road work or, digital billboards. And so teasing apart and really correlating or tying the causality is the really difficult part.
Okay, Mike, Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I pass.
All right. I think we've dialed this one in pretty thoroughly. I would just say we also have a Vision Zero program, and so we all are also looking at those high crash intersections for lots of variables and ways we can improve them. So this just becomes potentially another piece of information when it's verifiable, right? All right, Councilor Semple, I think it's up to you to put a motion on the table.
Move to adopt the proposed ordinance with changes as provided in Attachment A, an ordinance concerning digital sign code amending sections 9.0500, 9.6610, 9.6615, 9.6620, 9.6630, 9.6635, 9.6640, 9.6645, 9.6650, 9.6655, 9.6660, 9.6665, 9.6670, 9.6675, and 9.6680 of the Eugene Code 1971 and providing an effective date.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand.
Well done, Emily.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed? 2. And that passes. And I will say, if anyone has trouble sleeping, you can read that same string of numbers from the Eugene Code.
I thought for
That's
sure
right.
somebody was going to say, can you repeat the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all very much. It was a good, excellent meeting. Thanks for the discussion, and everybody have a good night. We're adjourned.